Yo guys, Vision SGen here, bringing you more Warzone content and the best loadouts to be using right now in Verdansk. In this video, I will identify the best meta weapons to be using as of right now, following the latest season update, as well as the newer guns that are both viable in case you didn't have any of the Battle Pass weapons, or just in case you want to change it up and try new weapons out. So on that note, let's get right into it. So for this episode, this is actually number 2 of my best Warzone loadouts in Verdansk. I've just recently uploaded a previous video on the channel a couple of weeks back, which identified the best weapons to be using right now, such as the Amax, the Grau, the HDR, the Kilo, and so on. So go check that out if you want to go see those weapons. But this video is going to show you some new weapons, some different builds, and just different styles all around. For any of you guys that weren't already aware and you want to be using the main newly added weapons that are on my previous video, such as the HDR, the Grau, and so on, you will need to progress through the Battle Pass and get to the following pages. So page 3, when you complete that, you will unlock the HDR. Through page 5, you will get the SWAT conversion kit into the Grau. For page 6, once you complete it, you'll get the AMAX. And then halfway through page 7, you will unlock the monolithic suppressor, which is pretty much used on most of the ARs in this game, in this current meta. But not to worry, if you're one of those players who has just returned to the game, or you don't have the Battle Pass and you're not planning to buy it, or you just want to try out new weapons, this video is for you because I'm going to be showing loadouts for weapons that are not in the Battle Pass, not released weapons such as the Grau and so on, and they're actually weapons from either Black Ops 6 that have just come out throughout the seasons, or from previous CODs such as, you know, the Car 98K from Modern Warfare and so on. So moving on and starting with the main weapon right now to be using as a backup to the HDR, something that is very viable, something that's not quite as good as the HDR in my opinion, but definitely competes at the highest levels. And considering the whole meta right now is long range and the map's so open and snipers definitely excel more so than ever, this is definitely where I'd start with the Car 98K and recommend to be using this weapon at all costs if possible, or just in that note, just generally any sniper if you have one unlocked. But for this video, we'll go over the Car 98K, and for the build and for the attachments you'll want to be using, here are the following. So first things first, starting with the sight, this is always preference. There are various different types of sights, whether you want a longer zoom one or a closer zoom, depending on your style. There's all different types, and again, it comes down to preference. I've got this sort of Schläger 3.4 times in this video, but I have changed it up and used all different kinds. It's just up to you. You need to find one that suits your style, in my personal opinion. But for me, I play sort of more medium to fast pace in this sort of sniper playstyle, so I'm looking for a sort of closer zoom, as that's where I'm going to position myself more often than not when I'm a sort of entry into gunfights and team fights. I'm going to sort of be picking someone or cracking them and then pushing with my secondary, whereas most players may typically want to sort of sit further back and just sort of snipe from rooftops or sort of buildings and play a bit more safer, which is completely fine, and you'll want to consider a sort of more longer zoom, something that's going to benefit you from distance. But as for the other attachments, these are all meta. You'll want to be using the Sonic Suppressor L as the muzzle, the 7.62 long barrel, the Recon Sling as the rear grip, the high grain rounds as the ammo, which provides you with better damage range and velocity, and then of course the sight as the 5th attachment. And this gun is really good and currently absolute meta in this game, following the latest update where they just gave this a slight buff to try and compete with the likes of the HDR, and other snipers should be getting that as well, such as the LW and the LR from the Black Ops 6, so just look out for them in future episodes because I will be making builds for them. But then moving on, as the sort of secondary and the support weapon for this build, it depends on your style again, but most players will want to sort of have an AR support, something more hybrid and sort of faster paced than a typical AR. So for this build, we're going to be using the AMAX support version. In the previous video, I made another AMAX build, but this is more as a primary and a long range meta, whereas this one is going to be a sort of close quarters. Think of it as like a submachine gun, just with more medium range and better sort of TTK. So for this one, we're going to be using the Compensator, the Ranger foregrip, the Extended Mag 1, the Commando rear grip, and the Infiltrator stock. This gun is definitely in the top 3 for the best meta weapons to be using, especially as a support weapon to your sniper build. I sort of switch between this and the AK, finding both really effective, and I'll go over the TTKs at the end, sort of giving you an idea on how quickly they kill and versus other weapons in this video, and also just in the game in general. But then moving on to the next gun in this video, we'll be going over the newly added PPSH into Black Ops 6, which is off meta in the sense that it's not as viable compared to the likes of the KSV or maybe the C9. But if you're looking to use a submachine gun and you want to try out a new weapon, this PPSH is definitely viable and definitely meta. It's just not the absolute meta, so you won't see it as often as other players, but it definitely shreds, and I would definitely recommend using it and trying it out because you may like it. Now, the only differences with this build is the actual grip itself. Some players are using marksman weapon, I would say you can change it up between you using Ranger, whether you want more recoil control, or if you want to just use the Marksman for the idle. It's just up to you and preference whether you feel it makes a difference. I personally have tried out both, and I think either works, so just definitely give that both a try. Like I said, use Ranger or Marksman, depending on your preference. But for the build itself, you'll want to be using the Compensator as standard with all of the subs, the long barrel, the extended mag 1, and the quick draw stock. Now, this extended mag 1, you can change this to a better mag if you find this gun just runs out of ammo too quickly, which it definitely can because of the fire rate, but extended mag 1 should be viable enough considering you're only sort of going to fight 1 to 2 players at a time. It's not like Rebirth. But then as for the gun you want to run this with, it could be a sniper support sub, it could be an AR support, so you can run it alongside the longer version or the sort of main version of the Amax, or you can run it alongside the likes of the Grau or the Kilo, whatever your preference, but this is obviously a sub, so it'll be a backup to a main weapon. And then going on to the next one and continue the sort of sub trend, we'll go on to the Kompakt, and this weapon has the fastest TTK in the game, which again I'll go over at the end, but the problem with it is the recoil control and the ammo count, as it absolutely flies through bullets. Now the problem with this gun again is it's more higher skilled, so some players will pick this up and not agree that it's a great weapon to be using, but if you can control this recoil, I promise you now you're going to shred through enemies, especially in those sort of one-to-one engagements. You will beat most gunfights, especially in that sort of closer area. It's when it gets to that medium range element of where the Kompakt sort of drops off, because the damage range is very weak at that sort of longer range. Anything really past 15 meters where you're going to sort of see the downside of this weapon. But if you're one of those players who runs around sort of superstore style buildings or in close quarters quite often, this is the gun for you, and it is where this gun is going to thrive. So like with the PPSH, for this weapon we're going to be using the Compensator for all subs, the long barrel for the barrel, the Ranger foregrip again, extended mag 3, as I mentioned, ammo is key for this weapon, and then the Commando rear grip, and that is pretty much the best version of this weapon that you could be using. The mag could be changed to suit your style depending on whether you notice if you need sort of the extended mag 3 or the 2. You'll get more speed benefits and so on from the 2, but you're going to run out of ammo really quickly with this weapon. So just consider this when you're making the build and you're picking the magazine, and whether from your own experience you notice this is a problem or not, and whether you feel you're too slow running around with that gun. And then as for the primary with this, I've used the GPR, which is definitely a meta gun, something that people are not using right now and something I would definitely recommend. It's something that was really good at the start of sort of Black Ops 6 and the Area 99 map. One of the best guns in the game at the time, and it kind of just dropped off a little bit. Obviously, I've just returned to Warzone, but since coming back, I've seen this gun once or twice, and I don't know why people are not using it. It definitely shreds and it hits hard, and if you're looking to use Black Ops 6 weapons, or you don't have the Battle Pass and you don't have a primary to use, such as the Kilo or so on, this is a good gun for you to be using, which I would then recommend using the Willis 3 times, which again is preference as the sight, the monolithic suppressor of course, the reinforced barrel, which is a pretty much standard for the ARs, the vertical foregrip, and extended mag 2. Again, the mag could be changed to suit your style, but extended mag 2 seems to be the sort of preference. The 60 round mag is sort of the go-to for most ARs in this game, especially at those longer range gunfights. You may want more, just consider it as I sort of said on the previous guns, but that is pretty much the best version of that gun, and definitely viable to be using. Don't get it twisted. I don't know if there's any bad feedback around. I haven't really seen anything about it in general, so just try this weapon out for yourselves. If you don't like it, my bad. You can come back and let me know why you didn't like it, but if you do like this build, this is a good one, like I said, for you guys who don't have the battle pass, or you're not interested in getting the battle pass and you don't want to sort of progress through and get these sort of mainstream meta weapons that everyone else is using, and then definitely sort of use this off meta weapon that is definitely viable in this game and hits hard, and it's just a really easy gun to use all around, really accurate, and as I mentioned, hits hard, sort of kills quick and feels good to use. But another aspect that no one really ever talks about in these videos is the camos that you grind and you earn early in the game, and then they bring out new weapons and you have to do the same process again. You may want to just use guns you've already got the camo for, just so you can see your hard-earned progress, such as the GPR when I used it in Black Ops 6 and got all of the camos such as Nebula and Abyss. It feels nice that I can actually use a primary with all of the camos, because for the most part, since adding the new Battle Pass weapons and trying them out, I haven't used Abyss or any of the other camos, and it's just demoralizing, because I sort of spent ages doing the camos and grinding them to not use them, and it kind of goes back on itself, and it feels nice to use a gun that actually has a camo that I worked hard for. If you guys have done that and you know exactly what I'm about, let me know down below in the comments, because I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. I've got friends that are just the same, and they worked hard to get dark matter and so on, and then they just don't have it because they need to then go back into pop multiplayer, which no one for the most part wants to play. We're here to play Warzone, and that's what you guys are watching this video for. And then another weapon that you guys should be considering is the Grekova, which is like the Psych meta, which basically uses the compensator muzzle as well as the subs, the long barrel, an extended mag 3, the quick draw rear grip, and the rapid fire mod. Now this gun can be used with pretty much a sniper or an AR. It's not something I would use, but I have been killed by it and it does absolutely shred at close quarters. But considering the map is so open and such a large map, I just personally wouldn't use this, but it's definitely viable if you want to be using a pistol or a sidearm with your sort of primaries. But anyways guys, now moving on to the last and final weapon I want to just go over, which I briefly touched on in the previous video on sort of the first episode for these loadouts, was the Saug. Something I didn't actually show, but I did talk about, and it is definitely viable and something people should be using in this current meta, which basically uses the exact same attachments again: the compensator, the long barrel, the Ranger foregrip, the extended mag 2, and the commando rear grip, which again, the mag can be changed depending on your style, but this is a really good gun, a really fast TTK. And then leading onto the TTK, just before we wrap up the video, here is the following. So these TTK timings are basically assumed on sort of 0 to 15 meters, basically where subs sort of thrive. Assuming all of these shots as well as chest shots, no headshot multiplier, and also no attachments, so just bear that in mind. But firstly, the Saug has a 553 millisecond TTK. It is a close quarter gun where that's where it excels, but the damage fall off is considerable, which is where it sort of has its downside and where other weapons will thrive, such as sort of this AR support weapons where you sort of make them closer builds. As for the PPSH, this has a TTK of around 567, very powerful due to its damage and its fire rate, but again, it is quite inaccurate, so just bear that in mind. Anything up to about 15 meters, this is what this TTK is for. And then as for the Kompakt, as I mentioned in the video, this is one of the fastest TTK guns in the game with a 495 millisecond TTK up to about 13 meters, and then up to about 16-17 meters as a 550 millisecond TTK, and then anything past that you're going to see a considerable downfall. So this is where the gun sort of basically has the big disadvantage versus the likes of the C9 or the KSV or other sort of AR support weapons. And then as for the GPR, this is a TTK of 588 milliseconds up to 43 meters, and then anything up to 60 meters in between has a 756 millisecond TTK, which as you can see is pretty good, and considering up to 60 meters that is quite far, this gun is going to thrive in that sort of medium to long range element. So just bear in mind what everything I've said with this video with this GPR and why you should be using it in terms of battle pass weapons and also as an off meta weapon that no one else is using, where you can start a trend, and I promise you now this gun is definitely viable. But anyways guys, there you have it. That's the full episode on the best loadouts to be using right now in Warzone Verdansk part 2, with the previous episode on my channel and linked in the description below, which will explain all of the likes of the HDR, the Amax, and all of the battle pass weapons essentially. So be sure to go check that video out if you want to go see those builds. But if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have any alterations that you'd make to these loadouts or any sort of implementations for new guns that I haven't thought of or should recommend in a new video, let me know down below in the comments and I'll get right back to you. I'm Vision SGN, and I'll see you in the next one.